Welcome to Talk with Tara, the podcast where we dive into the bold, the funny, and the fascinating. I'm Tara, your host, bringing you unfiltered conversations on life, love, and everything in between. Hit that follow button so you're always in the loop. And now, let's get started. Okay, I'm so excited. I have Diana Romanov here. She's an award-winning family attorney. She's based in San Francisco in Mill Valley, which is around the corner from me. And she's the founder of Romanov Law, a certified family law specialist, and the creator of Divorce Like a Boss on YouTube. So you got to check that out if you want tips and you're going through a divorce or contemplating separation. Go check her out on YouTube. She breaks down the real dynamics behind relationships and divorce for a large audience on her channel. So that would be a great place to really get to know her. Diana began her career as a prosecutor in the Regional Superior Court of Berlin and is also a certified mediator. She's known for a very transparent, client-centered approach, and her work spans everything from asset division and prenups to parenting, partnerships, and the psychology of divorce. I'm really excited about this conversation with her because when someone's contemplating divorce, they think, where do I start? I mean, I know that's what happened to me. I still don't understand all the nuts and bolts, and going to court is different than going through mediation, and then you're going to get a judge, and you may not like your judge, and you may be able to change your judge. So these are all things that you learn when you're on the way, but it would be so nice if you knew them before you started this whole process. And whether you should choose mediation and each person have an attorney, what happens during custody? What are the laws about money? And in a state like California, where it's a no-fault state, I was just out to dinner with some girlfriends the other night, Anna, and someone said something like, oh, if you have an affair, and I said, it doesn't matter if you have an affair or not in California, right? It's a no-fault state.
That's right. No-fault state. Thank God.
Yeah. So let's start with
laundries.
that. Yeah. Let's start with that and whether to get a forensic account. There's so many questions. What is a no-fault state? Maybe you can kind of start with that knowledge. That would be really great.
So no-fault state means that if both parties reached a point of so-called irreconcilable differences, sounds really fancy, but basically both parties don't get along and they don't want to get back together. So it's irreconcilable. So they cannot be together anymore. And that is enough. And a checkbox, it's just one form, FL 100, where you have a couple options: legal separation, divorce. And then you check, go through the form, and then one of the boxes, irreconcilable differences.
So those are the choices: irreconcilable, and then divorce, separation.
Yes, and there's annulment. Annulment is a bit more complicated.
Okay, got it. Okay, so it's a no-fault state. That means if you've done something really naughty or bad, doesn't really matter. You're not going to get penalized more. Right. Okay, so that's so interesting. So you decide you're not getting along with your partner. You are contemplating separation. What are some tips for women and men when they're going through this process?
What a great lawyer for some people is not a great lawyer for others. It's about connection, knowledge, expertise. It depends on the type of the case. If it's high contested, high net worth case, maybe a big law firm with a bunch of associates and forensics on the team would be something that someone would look for. If it's less high and highly contested, less high net worth case, more personal approach would be better. Sometimes big law firms are required to have their attorneys bill a certain amount of hours, and that can be also annoying to receive a $50,000 bill every month.
Yes.
I would suggest to speak to 3 lawyers.
But my question is it a myth that if you call a number of lawyers, let's say in Marin County, and you say, hi, my name is Joe Blow, I'm interested in getting an attorney, I'm going through a divorce, then your spouse can't call the same lawyer? Is that true? Or is that a myth?
So once the lawyer provided legal consultation, whether it's paid, the myth is if I give my lawyer $1, that's what I've seen in movies, that's not true. So the consultation could be free. But once the lawyer has received confidential information and provided legal advice, then there is this confidential attorney-client relationship established. When a client calls, in your example, hi, I'm John, and I would like to speak to a lawyer, and then it's usually the receptionist who takes the calls and takes down the information. And then a consultation is scheduled. And once it's scheduled and the client appeared, then yes.
Yeah. Then they
So in my system, I have a 10-minute free intake, which is not with me, which is with my assistant, who is screening clients for whether I'm available, whether I take this type of case, so that I don't have to take every single call. And then once they schedule a meeting, even if it's 30-minute meeting, I'm out. If I see on the calendar their spouse a week later schedules on my calendar, then I am conflicted out.
Okay. And so you're a mediator as well, right?
Yes,
You do
correct.
mediation as well.
Yes.
So what's your advice for women when they're going through this process? So what are some first steps that you would recommend? I come to you, you're my best friend, and I'm like, what do? I want to get a divorce. What would you say to me?
First of all, I will get all the basics out.
Mm-hmm.
What would you like? Would you like joint custody? Would you like to divide all assets? Would you like spousal support? Would you like child support? Would you like not to pay spousal support?
Right.
If you're the higher earner, it depends on your situation. Do you know all of your finances? Do you know all of your spouse's finances? Is it possible to get all the finances together without going through expensive discovery? Spending tens of thousands of dollars just to get basic statements for the last 10 years. What about retirement? Do you have a picture? If you both have equal amount of dollars in your retirement account, that would not make sense to do qualified domestic relation order to roll over. So then what I would suggest is getting ready financially, getting ready emotionally, get your team together. If need be, therapist, accountant. I have a team of accountants I work with. Get co-parenting counselor that the expense of having a lawyer helping with custody could be expensive. So having a specialist who is qualified to give suggestions to help move through custody-related disputes would be helpful, co-parenting counselor. Then forensic accountant, you dump all the documents they need into their Dropbox, into their share link, whatever link, and then they create an assets and debt sheet, marital standard of living analysis, post-separation analysis, whatever analysis we assign them to create, they will. And so then we have custody schedule, we have accounting done.
Mm-hmm.
Then we decided what we're going to do about retirement. We send the other side an offer and say, this is what you will get if we go to court.
Right.
And then we refine and we will say, well, actually, I don't want to pay you spousal support. So I suggest a buyout amount that is lower because of these reasons. Money now is better than money later because the other spouse can remarry, whatever the situation is. So we look at the particular situation to match the need and then make that offer. And then they say, well, and before they say, well, we say, let's go to private mediation. Private mediation in a shuffled Zoom room where a mediator is sort of in the middle. And in one Zoom room, there's the party with their attorney. In another room, I'm with you. And then we settle the case in one day. And by 6 p.m., we don't leave mediation until we have a signed agreement, assuming we reach an agreement. Because what happens if we don't sign, people tend to tweak things and it becomes another nightmare.
I think I would be very reluctant, though, at the end of the day to sign. I would be and you probably get this, I would be like, okay, I've just had a day to do this. I need to sit on these decisions. Don't you think? Like people need to sit on the decision and kind of go through and make sure they're not making any kind of impulsive decision based on emotions or something else?
No, because when we go to mediation, we are so prepared.
Okay.
So over-prepared.
Okay.
We know exactly what we will get in court. We know exactly what is our worst case scenario. We know exactly what would be the best case scenario. And so when you're offered between the best case scenario and what you will get in court, you don't need to think. You already know it's better than you will get in court. It's only you need to think if you get the worst case.
Okay. So
I would say, let's go to court instead.
Okay. And then so talk about court, because we hear people going to court, and then what's the difference between mediation? I mean, you live in this world, but I know when I was going through it, I didn't live in the world. And I'm like, what why do you get a lawyer? And then and my lawyer said, oh, get a mediator. Don't use me. Save a lot of money. Just get a mediator. And then I can just look at the final MSA for you. And then I was like, oh, a mediator. So we get a mediator and then we pay him this crazy amount of money and he's listening to both sides. I actually felt our mediator was not objective. And then how do you make sure your mediator is objective? I mean, that's another question. But what's the difference if you go to court? And I know that it's very expensive to go to court. So can you tell the listeners?
I'm curious before I answer, did you settle your case in mediation or?
We did, but we ended up doing it ourselves. We're very amicable. We just ended up sitting at a table and just saying, okay, just very, very logical. And I just thought he was a waste of time. But anyway.
Yeah, that's what I found. When clients come to my office, I would never tell them personally. I don't mind but I just never seen a successful mediation although I have successfully completed mediation. When a client contacted me and said, I will go to do mediation with my soon-to-be ex-spouse, I never seen that work out. Mm-hmm. Soon enough, fast enough,
right,
and successful. So it's very slow because the mediator always sends them to the lawyer to talk about. And so that's why I like when clients have their attorneys in a Zoom room so that the mediator does not have to do does not have to provide legal advice. Mm-hmm. So the lawyer can use the time while the mediator is in another room explaining, okay, this is what we got in court. This is why it's not a bad idea to consider it. So that's the type of mediation I'm talking about.
Right. Okay,
I'm not comparing one person mediator with two people who don't understand what they're doing in terms of family law.
Right.
Where they need to run to their lawyer and then months later. The timing is everything. The moment we leave the room, there's always going to be this tweaking hesitation of, oh, I shouldn't agree to this and that. It's never going to go away.
Right. That's true.
There's no perfection in this. So we have to know what is our bottom line, what is our top line. And as soon as we get closer to the top line, then we're in the winning zone. And it could be for anyone different. For some people, it's getting less child support, more time with the children. That's their important line.
Yeah.
For others, it's to look good on papers, to get 50-50. I'm a good father. I'm 50-50, but actually not to pay as much child support and not to have as much visitation in reality. Mm-hmm. So we have to go deep to see who is caring for what. But in terms of answering your question, mediation and litigation, I think every case should settle, really. Mm-hmm. There is no reason why litigation should exist. But unfortunately, or fortunately for my profession, otherwise I would be out of job, some people don't settle. They just don't. And sometimes the issues are so black and white that it's impossible to settle. Let's say one parent says, I would like to move to France and I'm taking the child with me. How can you mediate that?
That's
impossible.
True.
If the other parent is fully involved, want to stay, has a job, has always provided for the family. So that's the hardest case to settle. I settled.
That's a good example.
In the last couple of months.
I would say, no way, we're going to court. What would the judge say? What do judges usually say in those circumstances?
I really don't want to be a judge.
Okay.
I'm probably going to end up being a judge now that I said it. But it's one of the toughest decisions for the judge to make, because the judge has to look so-called Lamouche factors. So it's a Supreme Court case that came out and described what is in the best interest of the child, what is the distance, how is co-parenting. So there are many, many factors.
Yeah. It seemed like it would be difficult to get to move to another country if you were a good parent and the kid wanted to stay with you. It seemed like that would be a challenge.
Yes, I would say this is one of the most challenging cases to mediate. In terms of litigation versus mediation, litigation is obviously more expensive. Why? Although we prepare for mediation as if we're going to trial, for example, the reports, everything ready. We cannot settle the case without knowing all the facts. But in mediation, we don't need to prepare trial brief. We don't need to prepare direct examination questions, cross-examination questions, subpoena the witnesses, motion in limine if there are statements that are hearsay that should be excluded, or documents. all of that takes
Mm-hmm.
so much time. Depositions. In that
Right.
move away case that was heading to trial, the other side introduced 8 witnesses, and I had to depose each witness 1 hour. I limited
Wow.
myself to 1 hour. So it was a whole day of a lot of deposition,
Mm-hmm.
which then paying for deposition reporter, paying for my time to prepare, paying for the time being in the anyway. So all of that is time consuming. And I would say 10x time consuming.
Yes.
Because for mediation, all I need is get everything ready as if I'm going to trial without anything related to trial. All these motions and cross-examination questions, I would prepare the minimum, which is the maximum for mediation. The reports, the mediation brief, and all the facts and the law.
It seems like it's really sad, but you probably see where there's some kind of also deception or bad things that happen in the marriage that one of the parties just wants to go to trial. Like they don't care about the money that it's going to cost, especially in a high profile situation. Let's say somebody who has a lot of money and the spouse cheats or something like that. And they probably just say, let's just go to trial and bleed this guy. I've seen that. I've seen that where I live, where somebody will just take the guy, this woman in particular I know. She's not my friend, so I'm not saying any about any of my friends, but that she just is relentless and doesn't care how much money they have hemorrhage as long as the guy feels the pain. What do you do in those circumstances when you have clients that just want revenge? Hell hath no fury like a woman's scorn. I think that's the quote.
They don't like me. So either they fire me or I let them go because I don't do that kind of litigation. I just don't engage because I feel that's not where I went to law school for. I don't need the money. I like what I do, but I do it for the right reasons also. Okay. So, for example, if someone comes to my office and says, I want to give it to him and I will spend all the money and you just do what I say. Uh-huh. Well, I will tell her my pride will eat me up if I spent $200,000 of your money or $500,000, whatever that is, to get $200,000. That doesn't make any sense. I will not participate in that. Well, fine. I will find a lawyer who will. Good luck.
Right. Okay, good. I like that. So that's good. So you believe in mediation. What about so many women that I know lose their voice? And I'm sure there's some very strong, wonderful, boss-like women, but there's a lot of women I know, they become stay-at-home moms, the husband's out in the workforce, they lose their voice, they lose their strength, they're scared to leave their marriage. I had a friend who said, my attorney told me, don't bother leaving your marriage, you're not going to have your lifestyle, not even close, just stay married. What do people do in those circumstances? Like, what do you recommend?
Those are the most rewarding cases, I feel, to give them voice, to get them attorney's fees, to get them spouse's support, to have their spouse pay for their attorney's fees from their separate property without eating that spouse, that woman community property to pay for her attorney, and present the case in a way that it deserves, meaning to explain to the court for what it is. Mm-hmm. That she's an out spouse. He has all the control. And usually what I like to do is to give more control by asking the other lawyer first and then the court, if they don't agree, to pre-distribute some significant amount of money so that she has her own money to spend. Because usually in these type of situations, he would run all the finances. Oh, you don't understand anything. I will sell whatever you don't know about the capital gains and what to sell. And so when that happens, we get some specialist, educate what to sell, how to sell, divide, pre-distribute, get attorney's fees, so get all of that as step one. Mm-hmm. And then the best part is accounting. Yes, once accounting is done and they realize, oh, actually, I get $10 million. That's not bad. And surprisingly, even then they feel poor because their spouse makes them think that they don't have money so that they keep them small and keep them so that they don't spend a lot of money. Financial abuse is happening usually in these type of cases. Surprisingly, when they have a lot of finances and freedom to live life to the fullest. I'm not saying spend it all, at least not to be so frugal.
Right.
I have surprisingly recently, maybe it was me aging, I get clients in my age, close to 50, where they have been married for 25 years. And it's so wonderful to see them flourish and get educated and get more empowered. And it's really rewarding to represent these type of clients.
Okay, I like that. That's really wonderful. You mentioned a lot of things that are familiar to me about technology and getting divorced. Can you talk about how technology has impacted the way people get divorced today? Talk about AI. Maybe there's some ways to use AI that can help you along the way.
I think AI is a great tool to draft, to help summarize things. For example, when I have a Zoom meeting, what happens, AI companion summarizes the Zoom meeting. So when a client is in despair, stressed, they hear only half or maybe 3% of what I'm saying. And then AI summarizes it, and I send the AI summary and the video, and they can do whatever they want with it because they have everything we discussed in writing now.
Right.
Before that, I would meet a client for 2 hours, and then they would call me and I would repeat the same thing and realize actually they were so distressed they couldn't hear what I was saying. Now it saves time. Also saves time in drafting some things without disclosing confidentiality. It helps. It's not a final product. It's just a tool that frees my time, clients' time, to spend more time with each other, to actually strategize.
I would have liked if my attorney would have sent me a summary. Never got a summary of the conversation. So I'd always have to remember, oh, what did he say about that? What is that law? What did he recommend? You know, you're right. And then it ends up costing more money because of that exact reason. I do know my mediator would tell stories. Like he would say, I have a client that this exact same thing happened. And then when he would tell a story, and he would do this several times, like the stories would be long. And I felt like it was a tactic to charge more time. And what about women speaking up to their having, because I feel like I've met a lot of women that are very small in mediation, and the guy just bulldozes them and they just acquiesce because they feel like, oh, I don't want to fight. It's just not worth it. Just let him have it. Just forget it. What are some tips? Because I'm outspoken. So I would say, can we not tell these stories? Like, I think it's taking up time and we need to just kind of get to it. But then people are scared. Oh, the mediator won't like me. He won't be objective. And I mean, there were even times I told the mediator, I don't think you're being objective right now. I really feel you're on so-and-so side, What do you recommend? Do you recommend being very nice to your mediator? Because after all, they're humans, right? Or kind of standing your ground and sticking up for yourself?
If I were in your shoes listening to these stories, I would ask the mediator, I'm being built for this story.
Yeah, exactly.
Am I being built? Can we skip that? Unless you think there is a value in that story that will change my mind. But if you do think that way, I'm not going to change my mind. I still want X.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It was very annoying. I felt it was a tactic, and I'm sure he does it to everybody. So I think it's important, but women don't want to upset the mediator. I've had friends, I said, you need to stand your ground. You need to say you're not being objective, or I feel you're not being objective. Tell me how you are being objective right now with this decision or this information you're giving me.
The toughest one is not the mediator, because mediator is technically getting paid by you by an hour and minute tax. But what about the judge? Mm-hmm. What if the judge is overstepping? What if the judge is making assumptions?
What do you do?
How not to acquiesce the judge as a woman who is raised to acquiesce and being a pleaser? That was the toughest one to learn for me personally. The way I reframed it obviously was experience. It took me many, many years. I look at the judge not as someone higher than me. I look at the judge as an equal who is in the role to make certain decisions, and I need to make my record for potential appeal. Mm-hmm. So I remove the judge as a human, which doesn't mean I'm not respectful. I'm respectful at all times with everyone, judge, not judge someone. Doesn't matter. The point is to create the record. If I need to say something and the judge is yelling at me for saying that, then I remain calm and I say, Your Honor, I would like to create that record that I objected to this particular allegation or whatever that is. Because if I don't object, it's not appealable. Because if I don't object, that means I acquiesce. That means I waived my objection. And so judges have to understand that, and they let me create my record.
I like that. That's good. And you're able to remain calm. You know what I like about you is that you are a strong woman, but you're very feminine. And I think that's just such a gift to have both, be on polarities. So having strength, but remaining feminine. I think women have to this is kind of off topic, but looking at you and the way you carry yourself, you have this very strong presence, but this real femininity. I think it's a real gift. And I wanted to give you that compliment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I take it. Gladly.
Okay, you mentioned about online platforms. Are there some online platforms that you can recommend to some of our listeners that are helpful when they're going through divorce?
So if they're self-represented, then I would suggest whatever county they're in to use their website for guidance, because every county has their own, Marin County has their own forms.
You can represent yourself?
Unlike in Germany, in California, a client can represent themselves. It's called improper or self-represented. I would not suggest that.
Right.
But it's like filing your own taxes.
Yeah. I won't be doing that. But sometimes women just don't have the funds. I mean, we talk about $750 mediator, right? Each attorney is whatever, can go from $350 to $750, just depending. That's like $3,000 an hour. So not everyone can afford that. So
that's right.
Are there any suggestions for women and men who don't have that kind of money to get divorced?
Well, I have my YouTube channel for that reason. So I created this channel many, many years ago where I put out information, not legal advice, information about how to fill out forms. I actually created a course. It's very short, 10-minute each session, how to fill out forms from A to Z, how to begin, what's needed, and it's free.
Okay, good.
And I'm sure there are other online platforms like Hello Divorce, Bliss Divorce. I'm not affiliated with them. I'm not getting paid. And I don't know how the outcome is, but I would suggest that at the end, attorney, reviews the end output before making it a judgment, because I see a lot of women, I can do it myself. And then, in a multi-million-dollar case, sign off on some things. They later come back to me and say, hey, I know 4 years passed, but when I signed it, I was not in my sane mind. I was bullied into signing this. Can we set it aside? Much harder to set it aside after they accepted the money, moved into the house, and waived spousal support and did all of that.
Yeah, I hear about that people, I have a friend and she said, I'm worried he's going to come back and ask for more. And can people do that? Can they come back and change their mind once you sign an MSA?
Yeah, they can.
That just seems ridiculous to me.
I'm not saying it's easy.
I'm
not saying it's easy. So there are rules about setting aside if there is fraud. For example, omitted asset. I have right now a case where they signed an MSA. They didn't disclose half of the assets they each had, 3 different bank accounts. And then later she decided to to divide omitted assets. So many years after the divorce, and the court has jurisdiction over omitted assets, there is no expiration date on omitted assets. They're not trying to set aside the MSA. They're just trying to divide what has not been divided. So then we have another process, and I have other people who had their clerks. They asked for paralegals to prepare the paperwork, and they made mistakes in the write-up. And then, of course, it was also set aside. I've seen so many mistakes where it was set aside at the end because of these little mistakes or stupid mistakes, not delivering the judgment correctly or not proving that the financial disclosure was sent by email. Things that are annoying that could have been avoided. But then the reason why it's annoying, because now they have to pay so much money to start over.
You can't send the disclosures via email? The financial
No,
disclosures?
they didn't send via
Oh, they
email. So they
didn't.
said we
Okay.
exchanged, and then
Oh,
she
got it.
says or he says, well, I didn't receive it.
I
And then
didn't
you have
get
no
it.
proof. And then the other person says, well, I gave it to her. How can you prove
Gosh.
that? And then here we are. If you had an
Okay.
email, if you had a Dropbox, if you had
Yeah.
any.
Okay. Well, that's a good tip right there. Make sure that you just get confirmation whenever you send something so somebody doesn't come back and say, I didn't get it. One tip I want to give the listeners, and that is fighting with your spouse, no matter how irritating they are or how much you dislike them at this point, only hurts your children. Because at the end of the day, it's less money that you're leaving toward your children's college fund, to your children when you pass away, to your estate, and you're giving it away. Just throwing your money. You may as well just get your money, put it in a paper bag, and throw it down the toilet. So the best thing you can do, what I've learned, is to try to be logical, set aside your anger, get over it. Like you said, get a therapist and deal with your ex in a logical, kind way where it's beneficial for both of you, if you can do that.
I actually liked Judge Wiley's sentence in one of the high conflict cases that was just about to go on an 8-day trial on a domestic violence case. They had 4 children, 17 years of marriage. And then she said to each lawyer and to the clients, would you like your lawyer's children to go to college or your own children? You can decide now.
Yes, exactly. So that's my advice. Okay, based on everything you've seen, what's your advice for people who actually want to build relationships that last? Because you also are really good working with women, that you have a soft side. You're not just, let's just get this done. You have a soft side, empathetic side. So any relationship advice and for people, and do you ever make bets like, oh, this marriage is going to last, when you were seeing people get married? Or are there things that work in marriage based on your expertise and that don't work?
Yes, I actually wrote a second book, We Would Be Together If You Changed, where I observed a lot of marriages and divorce cases and spoke to clients. What I do notice is when people don't speak up, when they swallow resentment, don't say no when they should, don't negotiate for themselves, are followed by some cultural guidance and limitation of, oh, I should be married by this age and therefore I'm marrying the next guy at age of 30. Otherwise, my parents will arrange another marriage, or he promised to take care of me and I have this deep wound inside of me seeking security for money, and therefore I will forget everything, the fact that he's married and leaving his wife and his children, but he's doing it. So things that are so obvious, that are so easy to overlook because of a desire of deep-rooted need. And it sounds simple, but when someone has already everything, financial stability, emotional safety, education, then there is no reason to seek out for in partner for that. So then it's equal footing when two people are together because they respect each other, they have interest in common, not because of some deeply rooted thing. And it could be emotional stability, that how that a person makes me feel. So that dependency
Yes.
will create codependency and not self-sufficiency. So to become whole as a human, emotionally, mentally, financially, in every aspect of life, would at least give a good start to enter a healthy relationship.
Oh
And
my
I'm
God.
speaking it from my
Good.
personal experience, so
Yeah,
guilty
that's
as
really
charged.
that's really good advice, because we're pre-programmed, especially as women, to think we have to find someone who's financially going to take care of us and, have the dominant financial side in the relationship. I was listening to the woman being interviewed by Oprah Winfrey, who wrote in Modern Love, Belle, I forgot her last name, but she wrote this book about her husband being a stranger. I forgot the name of the book, but it's all over, media right now. She said she was a corporate lawyer, and she said, I didn't know anything about my finances because for me, it was romantic that he took over the finances. I found it romantic. I found it, he was the man taking over the finances and I was the damsel, letting him just take care of me. And this is such a huge mistake, ladies. Know your finances. Like, be aware, read books, listen to podcasts, understand finances. They're pretty easy once you get a hang of it. And having these, being programmed and not looking for things like honesty and kindness and I want a tall man, I want this, I want all these superficial things, and not looking for really wonderful qualities because you want some kind of financial leader in your relationship can really hurt you in the end. I mean, that's something that I've noticed. So I think that's really good. Like, be whole in yourself. I think that is the best advice I've heard in a long time. I just want to close with, this has been such a valuable conversation. I really appreciate your time. I know a couple ladies who are going through this right now, personally, my friends, who are just going to be so excited to hear this, and a lot of women who listen to my podcast. So I thank you for your time. And you can find Diana's YouTube. It's Diana-Romanov on YouTube. And you can also find her online. If you can please share your website where people can find your law firm online, that would be really helpful.
So the easiest way to find me is, the catchy phrase is divorce like a boss with Diana. One will guide you through the YouTube, and every single YouTube video has in the description box link to schedule consultation, my website. And then in Google, there will be a book, Divorce Like a Boss. Everything has my name where people can find me.
Okay, that's perfect. That's great. Well, this has been such a great conversation, and I'm really excited by this. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to Talk with Tara. If you love today's episode, please follow the show and share it with a friend. Stay tuned. There's so much more to talk about. See you next time.